working with us for since day one of this year. He's also running the sound, so we thank you, Mike, for your hard work.
Well, yeah, and I've just got to say that the positivity in this room of this celebration is just amazing. You know, listen to Mike online talk last couple of years about how Cliff is just, I mean, it's just big. It's too big. You can't explain it. And when you have something like that, so positive, so spiritual, there's just so much to it, and it's hard to. So very, very proud to be a part of this. Very proud to put work into it, help out, making sure that this was all good for all of you to enjoy. If you indulge me, I got to do a couple of shout outs, if you don't mind. First off, Casey, thank you so much for being part of this, putting it together. And we want to put our prayers for Jesse to continue healing from his heart surgery. So we put that out there. My sister Connie here, who has been working hard to keep this alive as well too, and talking with all of you online on Facebook, and just an amazing sister of an amazing brother. So thank you, Connie. And there's some people like Connie. There's a few Cliff Burton pages on Facebook and stuff. Sev, who's in France, on the Cliff 'em All page. I just give her a shout out. And Lisa Ernest O'Connor, who handles a Cliff Burton family page. She's always constantly posting. Muriel Levy, and then even we were talking about around the world, a gentleman named Marjan Bajic from Croatia, who is very much a fan of Cliff and stuff like that. So I just want to do a shout out to those. Thank you, and then thank you all for being here. This is just amazing. I'm sitting over there doing the sound, and it's just amazing just to sit there, and I have to remember that I'm supposed to do a job over there too, so it's really hard. But enough of that, enough of the shout outs. I asked Nick to edit a little video for us. Do you think you'd like to hear another Cliff solo?
Yes!
Really?
Yeah!
Hear another Cliff solo? Yeah! I like it. So before we get into our little our stories and stuff like that, and sharing and with these two great guys right here, let's roll that video. get a breath there. So you can see that solo is one of many that Cliff has done, and it was just always amazing to be on stage to look at that, because some of you may have been there at one of the first times at the Plunge. They were talking about Bill Weber, and Mike actually hauled all his equipment to the Hayward Plunge in 1981. And I remember the picture of the Chevy, the beige Chevy.
Fell out and broke the street.
Yeah. And I don't know how you got that thing in that trunk of that car, but he made it to the gig. And Cliff, that was one of the first times Cliff did a solo with Bill Weber's Echoplex. And so it was kind of, he had borrowed it for that day, and I was like, what the heck is that, Cliff? Oh, you gotta hear this thing. So he does solos. So that was a song that was written basically to let the members of the band kind of show off their talents. And when Cliff showed off his, it was just, oh my gosh, you know that. I don't have to tell you anymore. You've seen numerous solos, and it's just an amazing talent. And so a little backstory to this video is we had fired our manager, and we were searching for new management at the time. And our manager moved to LA, said, hey, I want to do a video of you guys. And then, if I get you signed to a record company, you can have me back as manager. Well, right. We fired him for a reason. So we decided to do it. Then he tried to get us to glam out, have us wear all this. And if you notice, Cliff, it may have been in black, but those were black bell bottoms. So that was the only thing that he told our manager is like, I'm not changing, but I may change colors, and that's about it. So he's got a black shirt with a black pair of bell bottoms on, and with the famous necklace too he has right there. But so we tried. The manager wanted to record it live. I said, why are we recording live? Let's record first, do a video. And I'm going to try and make this short and sweet. So he messed up the audio. So we've been recording video all day. And she comes back and says the guitars are no good. There's a part on the drums no good. Who doesn't have to repeat their solo? So if you want to talk about bass solo take one, there's one of the first examples ever of it right there. And so we were at a recording studio and redoing all our tracks. I don't know if you noticed, but you could hear during my little spiel 2 different guitars. And that was because they were out balanced and the mix was all messed up. So we're in there recording. And I got very upset at the ex-manager, went after him, they were holding me back. Well, that night, and I'm a pretty mild-mannered guy for me to go after somebody. But that night, and the story, a lot of people think the story goes a different way, but Lars and James were brought to the studio by a friend that had met our manager down there, Patrick Scott in Minnesota. How you doing, Patrick? Patrick's a great guy. He's been a very big part of the Metallica family at the start. But he brought Lars and James to that recording studio in Anaheim that night. And so I'm sitting there screaming and yelling at the manager, and I look over and Cliff's having a nice conversation with these guys. We have a kegger, we're having a party, celebrating food, kegger, and we're in there recording. And I was like, man, I'm sitting there going, why is he yelling at the manager? And I'm looking over and Cliff's talking to these 2 guys. And it's like, so I go down and Patrick introduces us and I'm shake hands and stuff like that. And then George says something smart and I get mad at him. But that was the first time, what I believe is when Cliff started telling them about, you gotta be up in San Francisco. And I think James and Lars got so mad, they left the spigot on our kegger on and started draining the beer, so we come out. George told me about it. I completely forgot about this, but we come back to the room and our beer's draining out all over the place. So before they were trashing hotel rooms or backstage at the Coliseum, they were messing up the Anaheim recording studio. But Cliff was there to hang out and support us. That's the way he is. He's always supportive, very right there. He didn't have to be there, but he was there because he was part of the band. And but like I said, he didn't have to record his parts over again. We had to. And that was kind of a trying night, but that was just so everybody knows, that was just like the first night that Cliff really had a conversation with James and Lars and Patrick Scott, who had brought him that night just to hang out. And we had, they were nice. We had a good conversation. There was no animosity or anything like that, but I would just share that with you. That was part of the backstory of this video. And I think I've talked long enough, and I'm going to pass it over to George Lady, guitar player.
Hi, everybody. So I got a question. You guys talked about Audrey. You're talking about Cliff Burton's girlfriend, Audrey, right? Did you know that we had a band together? Yeah, so it was me, Audrey, this guy named Mark on drums, and we hired some guy from Fremont to do singers. We wrote 3 original songs that I wrote, and we actually played at the fairgrounds with, I don't know if it was Nightwing. It was Nightwing there. Yeah, with John Gorilla. We actually did a live gig, man. She actually was pretty good. I said, Audrey, where'd you learn all that stuff? Of course. And he was, huh? Yeah, she played bass, yeah. Did pretty good. Little Audrey, yeah.
She had a good teacher though, which was Cliff.
Right, yeah. Yeah, she said, oh, he was teaching me almost every day. Okay, that kind of explains it. So, all right, so if we go back to the Judd's barn, okay, now.
Judd's here tonight too.
Now, me and Jim Schaefer, we did kegger parties together. He's the drummer, Jimmy Schaefer. And we did all the kegger parties in Hayward. Every Friday night, we get a phone call Saturday, hey man, can you guys come and jam? And we did. And it started to get to the point where it'd be really nice to have a bass player, But our music was like, I was just turning copy songs like Scorpions and Black Sabbath stuff upside down just so we could jam it. We didn't learn anything. But we played, and we loved it. We played for hours. So he says, well, I know this guy, Cliff. I go, who's that? He goes, well, he's with Easy Street. You were with Easy, because Jimmy Schaefer was in Easy Street for a little bit. I said, if he's with Easy Street, why would you bother him, Why even call him? And somehow, he gets Cliff interested in a jam, and this jam was not at Judd's barn. This is at Judd's house, his mom's house. It was either a house or an apartment. Real small room. Cliff had that Sun amp with that Sun head. First time I ever jammed with Cliff, and I was like, hey, this is really fun. Because the guy could play. Didn't matter how you played, he was playing. So that was a lot of fun. And then there was the barn thing, and I think that's where you and I met. So me and Jimmy and Cliff are jamming at the barn. That's when I first learned about Ride the Lightning. The story he tells with his sister. He wrote this song, Ride the Lightning. I thought that was the coolest title for a song, like on Earth, right? Ride the Lightning, come on. And it was just fun, and we jammed. So that was the barn. You said, how you even showed up with a Marshall stack and an Ibanez Iceman at some random, do you even remember how?
Yeah, somebody said there was a jam at this barn, so bring your stuff with you.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. So, from then on, we, when you and I got together, we, eventually got Cliff to just join, and that started the whole Cliff with Trauma thing. And what a fun guy to play with, man. Rest in peace, Cliff.
I got tons of stories, but I'm not going to tell any of them. What I am going to say is, no. What I will say is, Cliff's memory lives on in so many people, younger and older. And back in 2009, I was living in Sunnyvale with my son and my wife, and we went to go see the lynch mob at the Avalon. And we're sitting next to the mixing board, and we're just kind of bullshitting with the guy, and I told him, hey, I used to play in this band named Trauma years ago, and he goes, Trauma? He goes, was Cliff Burton in that band? And I said, yeah, he was my bass player. And the guy drops on his knees and starts going like this with both his hands. What are you doing, man? He goes, I just got to praise you. Anyone who's played with this guy, you got to be a rock god. I said, man, get up. Get up. And I just proceeded to drink my beer, and I kind of shoved a little farther away from the soundboard. And it's like people know him, all generations and ages, you know, from young to old. You know, I'm 65 years old, and I still get teenagers come up to me if they see me. I was at the restaurant in McHenry Village, the Italian restaurant in there, and Verona's, and I'm wearing a Metallica shirt. It's tattered, it's got a hole over here on the side, and I'm in there with my family having dinner. And some guy comes over and says, yeah, man, I like your shirt. And I said, yeah, I used to play with that guy that was in Metallica. He goes, who is that? Cliff Burton. And he immediately comes up next to me, puts his arms around me, and says, somebody please take a selfie with me.
Wait. You were in a nice Italian restaurant.
Yes.
With your family with the shirt with the hole in it.
Right. And that whole story, that's all you get out of that.
You had me at
Thanks, George.
shirt with a hole.
Thanks, George. Anyhow, that's all I'm going to say. You know, the guy's a legend, and he's always going to live on in my heart, and I'm sure everybody here's heart and everybody else's mind. And happy birthday, Cliff. Mr. Steve David.
Well, I'm actually the non-musician here. I was the roadie. What do you call it? Road manager. Met George. The roadie. Well, the roadie. Yeah, I had a truck. I had a pickup truck. So, yeah, me and Coke met George, invited me over across the street to practice, and that was really it. I was at every practice, and always just glued. And it wasn't just practice. We'd show up in the parking lot, and Cliff would show up. If his Volkswagen wagon was running, he'd show up, come over, walk next door to the House of Liquors, and he'd always come back with a couple beers. He'd always read the labels. It's like he knew he was. He knew he was going places. The guy, he'd reading stuff from Germany and these places, and but the practices were amazing. My family says I've had like a Forrest Gump kind of life, and I have. I've been around a lot of amazing stuff, and one of the best things was being friends with these guys, being allowed into that circle, and through it, just some of the things like when, we're talking about the being down in LA for this stuff, and then didn't you have a Dodge van and stuff? And we were coming back on Highway 5 one night on the way back, and Cliff and I were in the back behind a bunch of amps and stuff. And he says, "You still got that cassette player?" And I'm like, "Yeah." The time they're like this big. And he pulled out of his jean jacket a clear cassette tape that had handwritten Metallica on it, and said, "Those guys gave me a tape. Let's listen to it." And there's 2 songs on it. And I literally took a little stainless steel thing, goes over your head, we each have a speaker, listening to it. And he goes, "I think it's really cool." It's like, wow, yeah. And I was really scared. I didn't want to leave the band or anything. But, a couple weeks later, he was telling me it'll never happen. I told him they had to move to NorCal. They're never going to do it. And then a couple weeks later, he called me one night and said, "Hey, my Volkswagen broke down. I want to go to a show in the city." I'm like, I think it was like a Thursday night. I think it was in like a comedy club. It was small and had a small stage. And he told me on the way there it was Metallica. And they were coming up just so he could see them play live. And we went to this club, and I think there was about 7 or 8 people in there. They did like a 6-song set. And that was really it. A week later, he borrowed my truck to go to a practice with him. So, but one thing really strikes me, and it kind of goes off what everybody else said. When I met him, I was 21 years old, you guys. I've never met anybody in my life that was so solid and just unapologetically him. And it was like intimidating at times, and it was a ride of a life at times. His humor, everything, just amazing. just amazing, and I'm real thankful for it, and thankful for being here. Thank you, everybody.
So, yeah, the uniqueness of Cliff, I was just talking to George about this outside, how the individual members of trauma each had unique abilities, and we had that uniqueness with Cliff because he was just like almost a centerpiece, but just part of the band. He never put himself above the band, but he just put himself in that place. And, I hate to say this, but I think, when he moved from Trauma to Metallica, it just opened, it just like blossomed that uniqueness out. Even Cliff and I had this discussion how it was a little, maybe my songwriting was a little restrictive for him, but that uniqueness went, and my stage buddy went from next to me over next to James. And I think Mike pointed that out, how James was looking in the video at Cliff and just like doing his fingers like that. It was just
And he made everybody better.
yeah.
Everybody.
Oh yeah.
And that was a gift to all of us.
And it's just a blessing to be his stage buddy. And so I thank you all for being here. I want to do one more special shout out. We have a young lady here that came all the way from Brazil just to be here to celebrate. It's Christy driving right here. Just a beautiful young lady that we definitely thank you for being here. Yeah. So I think we've taken enough of your time, but like I said, and Mike always and Nick have always said this in their online the last couple of years, is just Cliff was just amazing, and it's just a blessing to be up here just to celebrate that and to share it with these guys. And
We're all part of the story, though.
Yeah.
Take pride in that. It's something to be proud of. Like you said, it's well said what you said. It's well said.
so thank you guys for having us.
Thank you guys, thank you. Thank you all for traveling. Mike says